student, and welcome to another math lesson. Today we are wrapping up learning about weight, and we are going to be looking at another tool that we can use to compare weight. So in our last lesson, we just used our hands to weigh things to see if things were heavy or light. And today we're going to be looking at a tool that we use to compare weight. So let's find out what our math thinking job is today. I can compare the weight of objects, weights, and sets that are heavier than, lighter than, and same as using a balance scale. So we're going to continue to compare objects. We're going to find their weight, and we are going to be using our vocabulary words lighter than and heavier than. So here we go. Sometimes when we are comparing the weight of things that are almost the same, it's hard to tell which is lighter and which one's heavier. Remember this balloon and tennis ball from last week's lesson? Was it hard to tell which thing was heavier without having the objects in our hands? It was. We have a special tool that can help us find which object is lighter and which one is heavier, or if there's the same weight. And it's called a balance scale or just a balance. Right now, you're looking at different versions of a balance scale. So today, we're going to focus on this balance scale, but you might see both of these in the future. These are all balance scales. So if I were to put a cotton ball on one side and an eraser on one side, what do you think would happen? Your teacher's going to pause the video and talk about what will happen when I put this eraser on the scale first. What do you think will happen? Well, let's see. When I put the eraser on the scale went down. I wonder why it went down. You might have said this eraser might be heavy, and you're right. This eraser is heavy, and it's the only thing on the scale, which means it lowered the one side of the scale. So when we see a balance scale go down, that means this side is heavier. This side is heavier. What will happen when I put the cotton ball on the other side? Do you think the balance scale will stay up or go down? Your teacher's going to pause the video. Let's find out. What did we notice? The balance scale shows us that the eraser is heavier than the cotton ball. It shows us that the cotton ball is lighter than the eraser. We know an object is lighter when it's on a scale when the side stays up. So when the side stays up, that means the object is lighter. When the scale stays down or goes down, that means that object is heavier. Let's try some more objects. If I were to put the marker on this side, what happened? The scale went down, which means right now the marker is heavier. What do you think will happen when I place the book on the other side of the scale? Your teacher's going to pause the video. Now, when we put the book on the other side of the scale, it went down, which means the book is heavier than the marker. The marker is lighter than the book. We know that by looking at the scale because this side is down, which means this object is heavier, and this side is up, which means this object is lighter. Before we move on to the next object, let's take a look at our scale. What do you notice about the sides on the scale? They're the same. They're equal. There's no objects on this scale to show anything heavier or lighter. So let's take a look at these two apples. What will happen when I place both of these apples on the scale? What do you think is going to happen? Your teacher's going to pause the video. I see two apples that are the same size. So when something is the same size, do you think it'll be heavier, lighter, or the same? Let's find out. I placed both apples on each side of the scale. We know that if we put a heavier object on the scale, it goes down, and if it's lighter, it stays up. When I put these two apples on the scale, nothing happened. That means these two apples are the same weight. They're the same weight. We know that they're the same weight as the scale just stayed the same. It's straight across. So they are the same weight. So when nothing is on the scale, it's straight across, okay? If I put my pencil and my marker on the scale, they're the same weight. Now, place this marker with a penny. Oh boy, what happened when I replaced the marker with a penny? Which is heavier, the pencil or the penny? The pencil. How do we know that the pencil is heavier? Because the scale went down. I want to make each side of the scale the same. What do you think I need to do to make the scale the same? I need to add more pennies. Let's see how many pennies is the same weight as a pencil. Here we go. Right now we have 1 penny. Let me add one more. Which is heavier, 1 pencil or 2 pennies? The pencil is still heavier than 2 pennies. Let's keep adding until they're even. Even means the same. We're going to know it's the same when this scale is straight across. All right, let's add 1 more penny. Which one's heavier? The pencil is still heavier than 3 pennies. Is the pencil still heavier? The pencil is heavier than 4 pennies. We're looking for it to be the same. Let's add 1 more. Is it even? Are they the same? Let's count the pennies on our balance again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The pencil is as heavy as a set of 5 pennies. 5 pennies is as heavy as a set as a pencil. So 5 pennies is as heavy as a pencil. Or we could also say 5 pennies is the same weight as a pencil. All right, so let's swap this pencil out for the marker and weigh and see how many pennies equal a marker. Are you ready? Well, we can already see that the marker is heavier than 1 penny. Let's add 1 more. Which one's heavier, the marker or 2 pennies? The marker is heavier than 2 pennies. Let's keep going until they're even, the same. Which one's heavier? The marker is heavier than 3 pennies. Marker is still heavier than 4 pennies. Let's try 5. We know that 5 pennies were the same weight as a pencil. Let's see if it's the same. Do you think 5 pennies equals the same weight as a marker? Let's find out. The marker is still heavier than 5 pennies. Let's add 1 more. What do you notice? They're even. It's the same. Let's count the pennies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means the marker is as heavy as 6 pennies. 6 pennies is as heavy as 1 marker. Wow. Let's switch our pennies and our markers out to cubes. What do you notice about my cubes? What do you notice about my cubes? It's the same. Let's count the cubes on each side. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I have 3 cubes on this side. That means how many cubes are on the other side to make them the same weight? Let's count. 1, 2, 3. So that means I have 3 on this side and 3 on this side. That makes it the same weight. In order for these cubes to be the same weight, we need the same number of cubes on each side. So let's look at this stick of cubes. I want you to count the cubes in this stick and decide how many cubes do we need to put on this side. Your teacher's going to pause the video. 1, 2, 3, 4. We want to make it the same weight, so you probably said we need 4 cubes on this side. Are there 4 cubes on this side? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 equals 4. Now notice that I have a stick of cubes and then I stacked my cubes. That's okay. As long as you have the same number of cubes on each side, doesn't matter how you put them on the scale, it's going to be the same weight. It's going to be equal. So we needed 4 cubes on each side. Let's look at this one. Your teacher's going to pause the video. You're going to count the cubes on this side and decide how many cubes do we need on the other side to make it the same as. When we counted, we got 6 cubes. That means we need to put 6 on the other side to make it equal. Remember, it doesn't matter how you stack them. It just matters that you have the same number on each side to make it the same. If we added 1 more cube on this side to make 7, would that be heavier or lighter? It would be heavier. That means we would add 1 more and it would make it heavier, which means our scale would go down. Today, we spent time comparing weight using a balance scale. We know that when a scale is down, that object is heavier. And when the scale is up, that means it's lighter. When the scale is even straight across, it's the same as. Today in Seesaw, you're going to continue to compare objects using a balance scale. Don't forget, you can listen to the little play button on each activity to hear the directions. Until next time, bye, Kipsters.